Commander Vexile moved slowly through the dim corridor of the Zenthari science vessel, Celestial Seeker. His scales once bright, now dulled by hunger and time. The shadows stretched long across the walls like silent witnesses to despair. 3 full cycles had passed since their engines failed. 3 cycles of drifting through empty space. 3 cycles of sending desperate signals into the dark with nothing in return. His crew had dwindled 30 once proud scientists and explorers now only. 12 left their eyes dim, their voices hushed. The survivors huddled together in the central chamber, conserving what little heat and oxygen remained. They had spoken their farewells, recorded final messages, made peace with their fate, for they believed no rescue would ever come. The galaxy was vast and cruel, and their own people had abandoned them. Yet still Vexile walked among them, steady and silent. Because even when hope has burned away, duty remains. He asked the doctor about the young technician. Lying weak with fever, the doctor answered with sorrow. Stable, but the medicine is gone. All I can do now is ease her suffering. Vexile closed his inner eyelids in quiet respect. He already knew what was written on the life support readings: 20 hours, perhaps less. No more than that. The Zenthari were proud they would face death with dignity. He rose and made his way to the command console. His steps slow, but his spine straight. The screen flickered to life, drawing on the last of the emergency. Power. This would be his final log, and he would speak it with honor. Final log of Commander Vexile's science vessel Celestial Seeker, Cycle 457 life support, critical no rescue in sight. My crew has held to the highest traditions even at the end. He hesitated. Was there more to say? Should he admit the suspicion that haunted him? The damage had been too precise, too clean. An accident could not have cut so deep. I believe our mission was sabotaged, he whispered. Someone wanted us silenced, perhaps because of what we found, the artifacts. The truth must. A sudden crackle burst from the comm panel, the sound of a voice not their own Celestial Seeker. This is Captain Alan Miller, Earth Alliance ship. Dauntless, we have your signal. Hold tight, we are coming for you for a heartbeat. There was silence, as though no one dared believe it then. The chamber erupted, weak bodies surged upright, eyes wide with shock and disbelief. Earth vessel. This is Science Officer Nixara of the Celestial. Seeker, we read you. Our situation is critical. Understood, came the calm reply. Ada, 45 minutes. Can you last that long? Vexile stepped forward. Voice firm. Yes. Captain, we can hold out. We did not expect rescue. There was a pause, and then the human voice answered with quiet certainty. Never leave anyone behind. That is our way. Prepare for evacuation. Your hull integrity is unstable. The words echoed in Vexile's mind. Never leave anyone behind. Humans, whispered the Zenthari doctor as though tasting the word for the first time. Humans here at the edge of nowhere. Humans who should not even be here. The council said they were not ready. The council said they were children playing with ships of fire. Yet here they were, and they were coming faster than logic, faster than protocol, faster than despair could drag them down. Scan for their vessel, Vexile ordered, and the officer replied. Earth signatures confirmed they are approaching at high speed. For the first time in endless days, Vexile felt something that was dangerous and impossible. It was hope. He turned to Nixara. The artifacts, she nodded, secured Commander Good. Keep them hidden until we understand who sought our silence. Minutes bled away until at last the ship trembled with the docking connection. Vexile stood at the airlock, his ceremonial cloak wrinkled and worn, still draped across his shoulders. By tradition, the oldest officer must greet their saviors. The door cycled open, and there stood a human shorter than Vexile. With pale skin and eyes the color of stars, Captain Alan Miller of the Dauntless, he said, extending his hand. The gesture of greeting from the human briefings. Vexile pressed his palm to it. Commander Vexile of the Celestial Seeker, we are in your debt. The human smiled, blunt teeth showing save the formalities. Later, your ship is failing fast, we need to move, and then the humans moved with a speed and focus that stunned the Xanthari, carrying the weak, treating the injured, guiding them with calm voices and gentle hands, as if they had known them all their lives, as if strangers mattered, as if no one was meant to be left to die in silence. Vexile watched his people rise from despair and step once more into the light of survival, carried, not by their own empire, not by their council, not even by fate, but by the hands of these humans. And in that moment, as he crossed into the Dauntless, leaving behind the wreck of 15 years, he thought perhaps the universe had chosen to answer them not with their own kind, but with a species that believed in something impossible. They believed no one should ever be left behind. Catherine Reeves wiped the sweat from her brow as she crawled through the narrow tunnels of the Celestial Seeker. The alien vessel was a maze of living crystal and pulsing membranes, unlike anything she had seen in 15 years as chief engineer. Of the Earth Alliance, she should have marveled at the beauty of it, yet there was no time to marvel. Survival left no room for awe. Captain Miller's voice came through her earpiece. "How's it look, Chief?" she whispered back. "Damage is deep. Captain, not random. Someone knew exactly where to strike. These junctions were melted with precision. This was no accident." Miller was silent for a long breath, then his voice low: "Sabotage without question." Catherine nodded, though he could not see it. Someone wanted this ship to die out here alone? She pressed further into the ship, tracing hidden lines, until her fingers brushed against something out of place. A small core wrapped in shielding, tucked into the membrane as if hidden on purpose. She pulled it free, and felt the weight of a secret, meant never to be found, when she returned to the Dauntless, her uniform stained with blue-green coolant. She handed her captain the data pad. The life support would have failed. "Within hours," she said quietly, "but that is not the story. The true story is someone wanted them silenced." Miller's weathered face darkened, his eyes sharp with thought. "Keep this quiet until I speak with their commander." Meanwhile, in the medical bay, Dr. Olivia Hayes moved from bed to bed, her hands steady, her heart racing. She had studied xenobiology her whole life, yet now knowledge was being rewritten before her eyes. The Xanthari were healing faster than expected, tissue knitting together, hunger fading with oxygen. "Renewed your people are strong," she told the alien Dr. Krell. "You survived 3 cycles with nothing." He studied her with faceted eyes. "You seem to know our biology well." Olivia smiled. "I read your journals. But reading and saving lives are different things." Krell lowered his voice. "May I ask why your vessel is here so far from human territory?" Olivia hesitated, not her story to tell. Before she could answer, the door opened and Captain Miller entered. Towering presence filling the room. Commander Vexile sat, up his scales, regaining faint luster, his inner eyelids flickering with attention. Miller drew a chair beside him. "Commander, my engineer believes your ship was sabotaged." Vexile bowed his head. "I feared as much but had no proof. Do you know who would gain from your silence?" Miller asked. Voice low, Vexile paused long moments, then spoke quietly. "Captain, you saved us. I owe you truth. But first, why is your ship here in this empty place?" Miller weighed the question. He could not reveal all their mission. Was classified reconnaissance. Yet fortune had led them to a faint distress call. Explorers, he said at last, seeking routes the council would forbid. Forgive first, ask later. Vexile studied him, and for the first time a glimmer of trust entered his gaze. "Then perhaps we share more than I imagined. Our mission, too, was not as declared. We were said to study anomalies, but we found more ancient technology far beyond what council races allow, knowledge suppressed for millennia." He reached beneath his garment and withdrew a crystal container within it. Shimmered light, not of nature but of design. This contains data that could change everything. Before Miller could answer, alarms shrieked across the Dauntless. The voice of First Officer Ryan. Weber, urgent captain, 3 ships just dropped from FTL. They carry Zenthari codes, and they are powering weapons. Vexile gripped Miller's arm strength burning in his eyes. If those are truly my people, they are not here to save us. They are here to erase us. And now they will erase you too. Miller took the crystal, sliding it into his pocket without hesitation. No one's dying today. Not your crew, not mine. He called through the comm battle stations, Dr. Hayes, prepare your patients for evacuation. As he strode from the medical bay, the weight of the crystal pressed against his chest, heavy with truths worth killing, for truths now. In human hands, the bridge lit with red warnings as the screen filled with the cold face of Fleet Commander Zorax. His silver-patterned scales gleamed with authority. His voice sharp, Earth vessel. You have interfered with a restricted operation. Power down, prepare to be boarded. Miller stepped forward, calm but unyielding. We answered a distress call. There are. Survivors aboard your mission was classified. Zorax replied, your aid violates the accords, surrender or perish. The screen cut to black weapons. Armed Sir Weber reported 3-to-1 odds we are outgunned. Miller stood tall. Then we do not fight fair. Options came quick from his crew. Catherine spoke sensor ghost protocol untested, but it may confuse them. Miller nodded. Use it. Darius Jackson. Security chief ready decoys, launch them on my mark helm. Plot a course through the asteroid field. Dangerous. But unexpected, the crew moved as one, their faces lit by fire and fear and determination. Miller opened ship-wide comm. All hands battle stations. This is no drill today. We remind the stars of what it means to be human. The Dauntless surged forward. Engines blazing, false signatures scattering across enemy scans. Beams of light raked the dark shields. Flared plasma vented into brilliance. The Dauntless dove into the field, weaving among mountains of stone. The Zenthari ship split, chasing shadows. Chasing ghosts on the bridge, voices shouted readings, warnings, hope shields dropping, still holding. Captain Miller gripped his chair, his voice steel, maintain course, head for the radiation belt. We vanished there, the ship rocked under fire, but it pressed, unstubborn and unbroken. And in the medical bay, Olivia steadied her patients through the chaos your captain runs from. No battle, Nixara whispered in awe, even when the odds are impossible, especially then. Olivia said firmly, that is humanity. The Dauntless burst into the radiation belt of the massive gas giant, its shields flaring against storms of energy. The Zenthari pursuers stumbled. Their sensors blinded their weapons, faltering. Catherine Reeves shouted readings confirmed their lock. Is broken. The plasma cloud disrupted tracking. Miller gave the command hold, steady plot, a jump course to the nearest Alliance outpost. Weber answered, Outpost 7, sir, 7 hours at maximum. FTL make it so. Miller replied, his voice ironed the crew. Moved with precision, though every heartbeat carried weight. Darius Jackson left the bridge to check on the rescued Zenthari, his boots heavy with unease. What kind of empire abandons its own, then hunts them down? What kind of truth demanded this? Much silence when he entered the medical bay. He found Commander Vexile sitting upright, his eyes bright. Despite the turmoil, Officer Jackson, Vexile greeted, your captain is skilled. He has gotten us out of death itself. Darius studied him bluntly. Why are your people so determined to destroy you? Vexile looked at his surviving crew, their faces hollow with exhaustion, and yet listening because he said softly, what we discovered threatens the foundations of galactic power, and now your species is bound to it as well. Darius pressed, what truth exactly, Vexiles? Voice dropped low, a truth buried for 20,000 years. A truth that will change everything, especially for a species like yours. Days later, the Dauntless reached Outpost 7, a lonely station on the edge of Alliance territory there. They were met by Commander Jack Wilson of Earth Intelligence, his eyes sharp, his manner skeptical. He listened as Vexile explained and studied the crystal container with suspicion and hunger. You are certain this is authentic? He asked. Vexile nodded. My team verified it again and again. Miller activated the crystal and light filled the room. Schematics, complex and alien danced above the table. Propulsion systems, energy matrices, technology. Far beyond what even the oldest council races possessed. Catherine stared wide-eyed. This drive is 3 times more efficient than our best engines. This is revolutionary. Wilson frowned. And you believe the Galactic Council has hidden this Vexile? Did not hesitate. Not just this, all technology advanced beyond their allowance. The founding races keep control by starving progress. Darius spoke. Then why did your own government not protect you? Surely this could elevate your people. Vexile's scales. Darkened with unease, the council rewards obedience. We joined centuries ago and enjoyed privileges, but my mission was inconvenient to those who prefer the old order. They chose silence over revolution. Miller's voice was hard. They left you to die. And when that failed, they tried to erase you and us. Wilson leaned back, his face grave. The implications are enormous. If we expose this, the council will dismiss us as primitives, if not crush us outright. Then Olivia Hayes asked the question that hung in the room. What do we do with this knowledge? Wilson sighed. We cannot go public, not yet. But there are whispers. Many species resent the council, their control, their slow choking of progress. Perhaps we build something quiet. An alliance of the discontent. Vexile's inner eyelids flickered with interest. Information shared in secret technologies passed carefully. Wilson nodded, a resistance of knowledge. Not war, but patience. Darius frowned. The council will notice if worlds begin advancing. Together, not. If we are careful, Catherine countered, we release advances step by step, natural in appearance. Each species on its own path. Miller turned to Vexile. Would others of your kind support this Vexile? Answered many scientists. Yes, some soldiers. Yes, there is resentment buried deep. Wilson added, and other species too, Fraxians, nor collective Tiani Republic, all resent control. We could reach them through hidden channels. Miller paced the chamber, his jaw tight. This would require enemies to stand as allies, but perhaps humanity's way is to bridge those divides. Vexile studied him. Your people extend help even to rivals, even to strangers. That is rare in this galaxy, rare and dangerous, but also powerful. Wilson stood. I must contact Alliance. Command. But even without orders, you are already involved. Miller folded his arms. We will not hand you over. We will not surrender knowledge that could free billions. We do not abandon those we save. Olivia smiled softly. Then this is the beginning of a movement. Catherine leaned forward, eyes shining. Then let us begin adaptation analysis immediately. The door slid open. Wilson returned, his expression grim but resolute. Command is cautiously supportive. They will send personnel and secure channels. This is now Operation Dawn. Vexile bowed his head. A new day for many species long trapped in the dark, and so on. That lonely outpost amid stars, cold and distant. A seed was planted. It was not war. It was not yet open defiance. It was the whisper of something greater, a revolution of knowledge, and it had begun because humanity had answered a call that others ignored, because a captain believed that no one, not even strangers, should be left to die alone in silence. 5 years passed since the rescue of the Celestial Seeker. Elena Martinez stood at the wide observation deck of Harmony Station, her eyes on the endless traffic of ships weaving in and out of the vast hangar. 27 species had come together. Here in secret, in trust, in defiance of the council, and she still struggled to believe it. Once she had been a junior officer aboard the Dauntless. Now she was liaison between humans and allies. And in the echo of engines, she remembered the first voice that had called through static and darkness, never leave anyone behind. Behind her came the steady voice of Admiral Alan Miller, older now, his hair streaked with gray, but his eyes bright as ever, quite a change from when this was just a mining. "Rock," he said. She smiled hard to believe it has been only 5 years. He joined her at the window, asked quietly, any word from our Fraxian contacts. Their delegation arrived an hour ago. Elena replied. Dr. Reeves is already with their engineers working to adapt regeneration technology. The station hummed with energy, life scientists of rival worlds working side by side, Zenthari alongside Fraxians, nor collective beside humans, enemies turned collaborators, all for knowledge, all for survival. But Miller's voice turned grim. The Council is suspicious. Their eyes have seen too much advancement too fast. Elena nodded. Our intelligence says the Alluran delegate is pressing for restrictions on cooperation. They feel the change coming and fear it. Miller looked out at the gathering fleet. Then we are running out of time. Commander Vexile approached, his scales deeper now, marked with silver, signifying his people had not forgotten his defiance. Admiral Elena, he greeted with warmth. We have word. From our agent, the Council has called an emergency session to address unauthorized technological growth. Their proposal is to place monitoring stations in every member territory, Elena muttered. Spies, Miller nodded. Exactly the day we feared has arrived. Nixara entered, graceful and sharp, her presence commanding Admiral. The Council session begins. Soon the Alliance must decide its course. They walked together to the central chamber where representatives of 27 species sat in a vast circle, some present in flesh, others in light and hologram, all waiting, all watching. Miller took no official seat of power, but as he stood, the room quieted for 5 years. He said, his voice echoing, We have worked together in shadows. We have healed. The sick fed. The hungry strengthened the weak. We have grown stronger than the chains that bound us, but shadows cannot last. The Council sees the signs and will soon act to crush us. Now we must decide, do we hide longer or do we stand the chamber? Erupted with voices. Some cried caution, others cried defiance. Centuries of fear weighed heavy. Miller listened, letting them rage until Catherine Reeves stood, her hair pulled back, her eyes fierce. Our ships are faster, our shields stronger. We are no longer helpless, we can face them. The Nor representative shimmered in light and spoke. War benefits no one, it would tear worlds apart. Darius Jackson's voice steel cut through. Who said anything about war? This is not about conquest. This is about freedom to rise without leash. Miller rose again, calm but firm. Then I propose a third path. Not hiding, not war, but revelation. Open declaration of who we are and what we seek. We invite all species, even the Council founders, to join us in cooperation. We show them our unity, our strength, our refusal to be shackled any longer. Silence followed, then whispers, then slow agreement. Humanity proposes. We walk into light. Vexile whispered, astonished. Your people always choose boldness. Miller allowed a small smile. Boldness has brought us this far. The vote was taken, the consensus clear. The Alliance would no longer lurk. They would declare themselves to the galaxy and extend the hand of union. 3 weeks later, in a neutral station, floating in the quiet void, billions watched through transmissions as the leaders gathered. Ships from every allied world formed a protective ring around the station, a constellation of defiance. Miller stepped forward to speak. People of the galaxy, for too long, walls have been placed between us, between our worlds, our knowledge, our hope. Today, we choose a new path. He paused, letting silence breathe, then continued. We extend an invitation to all species. Even the Council founders join us in this new age, not one of control, but of unity. We have survived in silence. We have endured abandonment. We have learned that strength is not in hoarding, but in sharing. Elena stood beside him, her chest full of pride, remembering the wreck of the Seeker, the dying crew, who had become the spark of change. Now the spark was a fire the Council could no longer smother across the galaxy. The message spread, and in its wake came an answer. Species long silenced lifted their voices. They pledged themselves to the Alliance, some openly, some quietly, but all with the same longing: freedom. The council watched its authority cracking its grip, loosening hour by hour. Miller turned to Elena later when the flood of pledges poured in. "Did you imagine this when we answered? That faint signal?" she asked softly. Miller shook his head. "I only did what any human would you do? Not leave people to die in the cold and forgotten dark." Vexile joined them, his gaze on the stars. "Your people see differently. Admiral, most see territory, resources control. But humans see neighbors not yet met, and so hope grew stronger than fear, and knowledge spread faster than silence, and the alliance was no longer a whisper. It was a voice calling across the stars. The council did not answer with silence. They answered with threats. Emissaries cloaked in authority came to worlds that had dared to rise. They came with promises of punishment, with whispers of fear, but the alliance had grown beyond fear. Harmony. Station became a beacon. Fleets from distant worlds converged there, their colors bright, their hulls strong. The old divisions between rivals now blurred by the hunger for freedom. Admiral Miller stood in the war room, his hands braced on the table, where star maps glowed before him. Representatives of many species filled the chamber, each carrying histories of war, suspicion, bitterness. Yet here they stood together because the council had left them no choice. Nixara spoke first, her voice low. "The council demands that we dismantle our projects or face sanctions." Vexile answered calm but hard. "They will not stop at sanctions. They will attempt to divide us, to pit us against one another as they always have." Darius Jackson leaned forward, his eyes sharp. "We knew this day would come. Now it has come sooner than we hoped." Catherine Reeves stood, her datapad alive with schematics. "They think we are still weak, still divided. But we are not." She showed them engines, shields, weapons born of ancient knowledge reshaped by many hands, human, Zenthari, Fraxian, nor Tyani. "Together the council fears what we have already become." Wilson entered last, his tone. "Steady command has intercepted council transmissions they plan to send fleets under. The guise of peacekeepers' fleets meant to shatter our unity before it takes root." Silence weighed heavy in the room. Then Miller lifted his head, his voice steady. "Then let them come. They will find not helpless children, but a people who have learned to stand together." Elena asked quietly, "Can we withstand their fleets?" Miller looked at her eyes full of truth. "Not alone. No, but together. Yes, they may outnumber us. They may outgun us. But they do not understand what binds us. They do not understand humanity. They do not understand defiance." The council fleets came in waves, vast ships of the founding races, gleaming with ancient might. They crossed into neutral space, demanding surrender, threatening fire. But the alliance did not bow. Instead, ships from 27 species moved as one. They formed ranks around Harmony Station, their weapons charged, but Silent Miller stood on the bridge of the Dauntless. Once more his heart steady. His voice calm, open channel, he said, his image cast across. The Star's fleet commander Zorax appeared again, his eyes cold, his tone sharper than ever. "Earth vessel and allies, you are in violation of galactic order. You will disband or be destroyed." Miller answered with no tremor, no hesitation. "We will not surrender. We will not abandon one another, never again. Your order is built on silence and fear. Ours is built on unity and hope." Zorax sneered. "You think yourselves strong, you are but infants playing with fire." Miller looked into the cold gaze of power and said, "Then know this? Even infants grow." The channel cut, weapons, charged space, trembled on the brink of war. But in that breath of silence, a miracle happened. Ships from worlds not yet declared began to arrive one by one. Their banners bright, their voices unafraid. They joined the formation, swelling the Alliance fleet until the balance no longer seemed so fragile. Vexile whispered from beside Miller, "They come because of you, Admiral, because humans reached across walls that no one else dared. Cross because you answered a call, others ignored the council. Fleets faltered their scans, reading numbers, rising power, gathering courage, swelling. Miller spoke to his crew. Steady. Now this may be the storm that decides the future. The first shots were fired beams, cutting the dark shields blazing. The Dauntless shook under impact, yet held its line. The Alliance fleet answered not with panic, but with precision species, once enemies covering each other, ships weaving like dancers among fire. And flame? Catherine shouted, shields holding engines stable, the old technologies reshaped by many hands proving their worth. The Council ships staggered, unprepared for unity, unprepared for defiance. For the first time in millennia, they faced a force, not born of control, but of cooperation. The battle raged on, and still the Dauntless fought, its hull scarred but unbroken. Miller stood unyielding, his crew driven not by orders of empire, but by the simple promise no one is left behind in the medical. Bay Olivia worked tirelessly, her hands moving over human and Zenthari and Fraxian alike. There was no difference here. Only lives to save your people are reckless, Krell told her as blasts shook the walls. Reckless to fight powers. This old Olivia looked at him with fire in her eyes. Perhaps reckless, perhaps stubborn. But we do not bow. We do not surrender. That is our way. The battle stretched into hours. The Council fleet battered by defiance, by hope, by the very thing they never understood. Unity at last forged, not by dominance, but by choice. And when the dust cleared, when the fires dimmed, the Alliance fleet remained bloodied but unbroken, and the Council ships retreated not in triumph, but in silence. The war came like thunder across the stars. The Council unleashed fleets older than civilizations, vast armadas forged in forgotten forges, their weapons carved with centuries of dominance. The Alliance met them not with fear, but with unity. Ships of every color, species and world sailed together into fire. The Dauntless led the charge, its engines roaring, its shields blazing. Captain once, Admiral now legend. Alan Miller stood upon its bridge, steady as the void itself beside him. Elena Martinez. Calm, though, her heart trembled. Vexile, his silver scales burning with defiance. Nixara poised, eyes sharp. Darius Jackson unyielding. Catherine Reeves, her hands dancing across schematics. Olivia Hayes, her voice steady in the medical wing. Every soul. Bound not by orders of empire, but by one truth. No one is left behind. The first clash shook the heavens, beams carved, space shields screamed, hulls shuddered. Yet still they held ships, weaving like threads of light, covering one another, saving one. Another, the Council fought with power, but the Alliance fought with purpose. Every loss mourned, every victory shared, every act of defiance echoing across the void. The battle raged for days, fleets breaking, reforming, surging again and again. The Dauntless, scarred but unbroken, pressed into the storm. Miller gave orders, steady voice, never cracking even as the ship trembled, and when Zorax appeared on the screen, his eyes burning with fury. Miller met his gaze without fear. Zorax spat. You defy the oldest order in the galaxy. You defy inevitability. Miller answered, calm and fierce. We defy nothing but your chains, your silence, your cruelty. Inevitability belongs only to those who surrender, and we do not surrender. The Council fought with fire. The Alliance answered with hope, and slowly, impossibly, the tide began to turn. The forbidden technologies, reshaped by many hands, proved stronger than ancient arrogance. Shields held longer, engines burned, brighter weapons struck truer, and through it all, the Alliance never fought alone. Fleets covered each other. Wounds were mended, lives were saved. No one was abandoned. The Council faltered, ships burning, retreating, their power broken by something they never understood. Unity, not born of fear, but of choice. And when the battle was done, when silence returned to the stars, the Alliance fleet still stood, battered, scarred, but alive. Harmony Station lit with cheers. Voices of dozens of species raised together for the first time in history. Miller stood at the viewport of the Dauntless, his face weary, his eyes shining. Elena joined him, whispering, "It is over." He shook his head. "It is only the beginning." Vexile approached his voice low. You have done what none thought possible. You have broken the oldest chains. Miller turned to him, his words simple. We did it together. Olivia arrived from the medical bay, her hands stained with labor, her smile soft. I have seen something. No power can erase Fraxian lifting, Zenthari human healing, nor enemies made into allies. This is what victory means. Not fleets, not weapons, but the simple truth that life is worth saving. Darius Jackson stood tall. Every soldier, every officer, every soul fought. Not for conquest, but for one another. That is our strength. That is humanity's gift, Nixara added quietly. And it is a gift the galaxy will never forget. The Council shattered its control, broken its silence, ended its dominion, fading and across the stars. Voices once suppressed rose in harmony. Worlds once divided shared their strength, their knowledge, their hope. A new order, not of dominance, but of unity was born, and at its heart beat a human truth: never leave anyone behind. Years later, when stories of the war were told, children of many species listened wide-eyed. They asked, why did humanity fight so fiercely for those who were not their own? The answer was spoken not by humans alone, but by Zenthari Fraxian nor Tyani, by every voice that had joined the alliance. They fought because they would not abandon. They fought because they believed that even in the silence of space, no one should die alone. And so the tale spread, becoming legend. A story of a people called human who looked into the endless dark and saw not emptiness, not conquest, not fear, but neighbors, waiting to be met. And the stars themselves seemed brighter, as though they too whispered the creed, never leave anyone behind.